York. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Yeah, Ebro in the morning. Rosenberg, Laura Stiles on assignment?
I'm so happy she's not here. And I love Laura Stiles. She's literally like family. She was at my Seder. However, I wasn't here last time and I missed Rosario Dawson.
Hi.
And now I'm so happy that I get
Rosario
more time.
Dawson on the show. Rosario Dawson.
Because Laura would have been on like trying to share Latina moments together and I would have felt left out. And now I'm here.
Rosario, you're here. You have another movie that you're in.
Yeah.
And what's the name of it?
Unforgettable.
And what's so unforgettable about this movie?
So much. What an experience this
Are
was.
you up to your shenanigans again in this movie?
Oh, yes. Not as bad as Katie Heigl is, but yeah. I'm just trying to survive.
What's Unforgettable about?
Unforgettable is a movie. I play this woman, Julia Banks. She has a very traumatic background. She had an abusive father who is an alcoholic and an abusive ex-boyfriend. And she transformed her life. She's no longer a victim. She's a survivor. She's thriving. She's now fallen in love. And she's engaged to be married to this wonderful man who, from his previous marriage, has a child. She moves down to be with him, and his ex-wife is not having it. And so I like how BET put it down, beware of Bay's ex.
Facts.
So wait, are Katherine Heigl plays ex?
Yes.
The ex. And are they clearly divorced? There's nothing.
Yeah, they've been divorced.
So this isn't you sliding in, breaking up something.
No.
It's
but
also- it's not a
but it
documentary,
depends. It depends on how, this in the psychology of her. She definitely feels like I've crept up on it. But it's like, we have a whole fight and I'm like, it's been 2 years. Like, you need to move on.
But does this turn into a dangerous situation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really, this goes to that place. What I really like actually about it is that my character, having gone through so much different trauma in her life, there's a part of her that could really understand where this woman's at. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, how broken and how just devastated she is. But that mental space needs to be addressed. You don't suppress it. You don't ignore it. You have to deal with it. And my character would actually at one point goes and checks herself into some place. And she spends 30 days and she works through her issues. And that's one of the reasons why she has the tools and resources to do so well and be in this different part of her life. And I think that's a really important message in this film is there's this other woman and she's got everything. She's picture perfect. But they're putting everything in the closet. All the skeletons are in the closet. And all the resources that they have, they're not using them. And my character has, you see her, she's got no family around her. Her best friend is her boss. And that happens a lot of times with people who've been abused, that they really isolate themselves and they end up having, being really kind of cut off from the rest of the world. And so this is her chance at having a family. And my character is not going to give that up. She knows what's at stake here. This is a big deal.
Is this one of those situations where, as a woman, the character relates to the other one? And it's like, I see what you've been through and I feel for you, but at the same time, if I have to fuck you up, that's what's going to have to happen.
I wish, but my character, though she's in a much better place in her life, she's still grappling with the insecurity and the doubts and just the paranoia of what she had gone through before. So she is not forthright about what her past was as well. So there's a lot of people not communicating what they could be communicating. And had she done that, if she didn't feel the shame for the work that she had done and be the place that she is, she could have met her and been like, oh, girl, you need to talk to my doctor. But instead, they're hiding it all. And you see what happens.
So it's about communication, mental health.
Absolutely. It's communication is everything. I've just found it's just really everything. And you got to be willing to look at ugly in order to get past it.
And it's also dealing with some reality too, because men or women, we hear stories about people who have been clearly communicated with that I am not interested in this relationship. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yep.
This is over.
Yep.
And someone believes there's still a chance.
Yeah. Or even just that they're just not getting the signals. They're not caring that how they feel is the only thing that matters. And that's really scary. I mean, how many times are we seeing regularly, unfortunately, online, oh, there's another hashtag for somebody because someone's ex just didn't move on. And now that person's child is going to be motherless or fatherless because someone's ex couldn't figure it out and get the help that they needed. It's just like, we really have to stop being so attracted to crazy. I call my uncles and my family, some of the people in my life, I know they're like, if she ain't crazy, they're not interested. They like that drama, but it's scary and you got to be really on top of it.
I think there's two things there. I think socially we've allowed many people to be okay not addressing the issues that are right in front of us, right? Like we take prescription pills and kind of like, oh, well, that'll make everything okay. Or
a lot of self-medication.
Self-medication happening. And then there's also, you kind of rationalize your dysfunction, right? Where we do it all the time. And we talk about this, where people will talk about how the neighborhood used to be. And the neighborhood used to be shit. Like, it was shit, but it was ours, and we loved it. And you're like, yeah, well, it's gentrified now. And you're like, but they're improving it a little bit, right? Like, it's nicer. Yeah, but I liked it when it was crackheads and shootouts and needles on the ground. And you're like, yeah, no, you're rationalizing dysfunction in some way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that talks about what you're saying with drama, where you grew up in a household where there was a lot of drama, and you think that's how love and family is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But that's something we always joke about. Like, I feel like culturally, I even sit and listen to you guys do it all the time.
Getting whoopings.
I always joke that, like, I'm the only white person in the room, and that on a regular basis there is let's have a contest to see whose childhood was basically the most scarring and terrible. It's like, well, when I got my ass whooped, and I'm always like, what the hell are you guys talking
I got
about?
wire hangers in the wooden spoon.
And I'm like,
I got the racetrack and the phone cord.
And it's like, so I do think to a certain extent, I see what you're saying, Ebro. We sort of find ways to laugh off things that may actually be traumatic. Now
it's normalizing violence.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's what's normal to you. It feels familiar, and so that's what you gravitate towards. It's, there is a scene in this where her ex comes back, and this is a person who is abusive to her, that she got a restraining order against, took to court, he went to jail, like a whole thing. And, he's there, and you can see, like, she's so surprised that he's actually there because she's so always thinking of him all the time, and to have him physically be there. And we had this whole thing, we kind of changed in the scene because at first they kind of had it that, I kind of try to seduce him a little bit, like, oh, he's here, and that's how I try to seduce my way out of the situation. I'm like, that's who she was years ago, and that's probably how she survived it before. But now she's so allergic to that. She can't even fathom that she allowed herself to be around this person. She's so against it. And that's so good to see how she's pushed that out of her body, that she's not willing to go back to that old familiar place. That's gone and dead. But for so many people, they feel normal. You know what I mean? Like, I remember we were... an ex-boyfriend of mine, we went to dinner at Mr. Chow's with like Questlove and like a whole crew. It was like just like a super, like a bunch of rappers and like just a bunch of different people. And my ex was from Hawaii. And everybody just, I don't know what happened, but we also started talking about our childhoods and exactly that. Like, yo, remember that scar I got because this one hit me over the head and with the pot or like stabbed me like this. And it's like, I understood that from that neighborhood, that community, you had to be more afraid of your mom, your grandmother, whatever, than the drug dealers out there. That's what they were trying to do to make you survive. Mm-hmm. But from him, he grew up in Hawaii, walking around barefoot. So all he was hearing was just trauma and abuse. And he was just sitting there like shrinking. And we're all like laughing and like, y'all remember that time? And you're like, yo, your mom almost stabbed you, son. Like, you deserved that. Like, whatever. We're all like joking and like being in this whole thing because we used to wild out and we're talking about, and we're not in this different place. So we're not even thinking about how it sounds because we're like, now we're Mr. Chow's and we're doing well and it all. But my ex is sitting there like, this is
like, I don't know why
horrible.
This is really sad.
And I remember being like, oh, it was one of the first times that it occurred to me how different that sounds from folks that didn't experience that. And it was one of the things that actually broke us up because we were so foreign. I didn't know what that felt like to just have that much love and kindness and all that kind of stuff all the time. I had that with my family, but there was also
the neighborhood.
Like there was survival that was there, and he didn't have that. It was that edge just wasn't there, and it was beautiful, that innocence, but it was also kind of.
It was hard to relate to.
It was hard to relate to. It was a little bit like, that's sweet, some of us don't get to grow up on an island.
This is unraveling.
When you talk about people not knowing how to deal with feelings and crazy people in general.
Yeah.
I feel like, and tell me if I'm way out of bounds here, that for what Rosario Dawson connotes to me, and it should be said, literally when I became a DJ the summer before my freshman year of college, I think we're like the exact same age, it was when He Got Game came out.
Okay.
So He Got Game came out and I was like, oh my God, I'm in love.
Have sex.
So I'm like 2 years old. How old are you?
I'm 37.
Okay, I'm 37. Oh my God.
So I was.
You saw her have sex. Just get right to it. I saw you in the movie.
Well, at the time
the
I was
sex
with
scene was incredible.
Hold on, yes, that's true. But at the time, I paused it, confirmed pause. But at the time, it was quick, so you really had to hit the freeze frame quick.
Yikes.
But at the time,
All said in front of my mama, y'all.
Oh, sorry. And at the time, I was with my Brazilian ex, so all Latin women were just like, I was obsessed. My point being, fast forward 20 years, if I was at a party and I'm a married, normal, I think very used to meeting celebrities person, and if someone was like, yo, Rosario Dawson's there, and I'd had like 3 drinks, I'd probably be like, yo, I'm talking to Rosario Dawson. How often do people come up to you and just be like, have a little bit of, or a little extra, because you are someone who's been kind of wanted for like 20 years?
Oh, that totally went in a totally different direction.
Yeah, it wasn't going to go to that bad a place.
How many people come up and talk to you about your topless scenes? Was that where you thought he was going?
No, I mean, that still happens. But no, I was just thinking, I just didn't even know. Yeah, I'd be actually just so funny. Mom and I were at dinner last night and we saw this person we hadn't seen in a really long time that we had just been at an event with. You know, it wasn't like we knew him really, but it was just happenstance. And we're like, oh, we should take a picture then. That'd be so great. He goes, oh no, my wife would not be okay with that. And I was like, really? And it's like,
and he's like, why? Because you're Rosario Dawson?
Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay. That's so, like it's such a strange thing. Like, why can't you just be like, hey, we just met? He's like, oh, no. My wife's Latina. Like, she would just not have that. Like, she's super jealous. Like, It would be a big fight. I'm like, really? Because I have so many couples that come up to me like, you're my past. And I'm like, that's just too much information.
But that is the thing. But that is the thing. You are used to being that kind of person for people.
It's a bit weird. It's a bit much. I'm like, people are like, yo, ass to mouth. I'm like, yeah, I saw Clerks too. I'm glad I did that too. We're at Disneyland. There's children here.
Don't mention ass to mouth.
Mind yourself, please.
But on that, I saw you have sex with Chris Rock in the bathroom.
But they didn't really have sex. Sometimes it's confusing.
I know.
It wasn't a documentary.
So you never had sex with Chris Rock?
No. Didn't happen. I
people
love
really think that?
Chris.
People think that?
Love him.
Everybody's
never
like me,
had sex
man.
with him.
Everybody's like me.
It's hilarious. Even to the point, like I remember when we did that scene, he was like, "Oh, we need to do a panty shot. We didn't do a panty shot. We got to do something." I was like, "You can hire somebody. I ain't coming to do a reshoot." So you could shoot up my dress. Like, that's just not going to happen if you really need this shot. I appreciate you, Chris.
Chris, what are you doing?
Love you.
What do you mean, what are you doing?
That's
what you were trying to do.
I was like, I feel you. Good try, but nah.
But the reason I bring that up is because your sexuality and being sexy and being beautiful, that's not something you're afraid of.
No.
And some actors, that's not their thing. They don't do it. But in many films, you've been like, look, I love the human body. I love my body.
My mom's a nudist, so I think I just grew up with sort of that kind of thing.
So you worked...
Shout out to mom in the building.
Because I was going to say, Ebro's totally making that up because you don't know that that's what her logic was, do you?
I feel like...
But you just feel like it is.
No, I feel like based on who you are, like you're like you're an activist and you're outspoken and women's rights and feminism and like I could imagine being like, I love my body.
So you were always comfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of... being able to tell stories and be able to just be as realistic. I watched so many different movies and I watched a lot of European films especially and just life. Like I grew up going to nude beaches and like that's the body. I'm using my whole body in this scene. I get bruises all the time doing physicality of all types of stuff. Why wouldn't I show that if it makes sense, And so I've just never been
Will you tell Ebro that you didn't actually have sex with Ray Allen?
Didn't have sex with Ray Allen. And as a matter of fact, I was still a virgin when I did that movie.
Really?
I didn't have sex till I was 20 because my mom was a teenage mom. So I was very late bloomer because I was just so frightened of being a teenage mom. I just was like, work. I started acting at 15. So I'd already been like solidly working on my career for 5 years. But even before that, I was a
So is it hard to do a sex scene when you've never had sex?
Well, she'd been to second base.
Come on, it's not like I didn't read
she humped with her clothes on. Got a
it's not like
hump.
I didn't see porn or like mag. You know what I mean? Come on,
it's not that.
Yeah, it's not that difficult.
I suppose.
You are very vocal and active around the world, internationally. Last time we talked, you were I think it was I forget the name of the company, but you guys were selling clothes and things made.
Studio 189. And we have a store right now on Elizabeth Street between Houston and Bleecker.
And those clothes are from?
We're based in Ghana. So actually tomorrow, if you're in Osu and Accra, we're also having an event at our store there in Osu. So check us out, Studio 189. We do men's and women's.
Where is Osu?
Osu is in Accra. So it's the main capital city of Ghana.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
And so, but with that, obviously, you've been also very active around what's happening in our country with the Native Americans in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And we've been very vocal about it and bringing attention to it, interviewing people, having a conversation, raising money, whatever we can do.
Yeah.
It appears today that the oil companies and capitalists and Republicans and people who don't care about the environment have gotten their way, right? Talk about how you feel today and maybe how that movement is going because we've caught up with people who are still fighting.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who have kind of thrown their hands in the air and are just moving on with their lives.
You got to keep fighting because they're trying to do a pipeline right here in New York. They're doing same thing in Florida. There's pipelines all across the nation. But what's going on in Syria and Turkey right now? It's
oil.
It's oil. It's all about oil and money. So we got to really keep pushing back because this is about our environment and you can't drink oil. So the fight isn't over. It's like, unfortunately, does it have to be a Flint before people go, oh my God, that's terrible. And even then, after the fact, they're still not getting drinking water right now. Like even getting that information doesn't necessarily change anything. So, but we have to still keep fighting because those kids still need water. And that's the thing that I just find is really beautiful. There's like, today they're doing a day of silence for LGBTQ youth. And there's just hundreds of thousands of kids that are participating across the nation. And then they're doing Break the Silence events. And I'm going to go to one later tonight. And it's awesome because their way they're breaking the silence is to actually focus on the school to prison pipeline. And the fact that this youth is coming together and they're just organizing so strongly. The kids at Standing Rock is reason why so many people know about it. They ran all across the nation. When they ran from Dakota to New York, then they got from DC to DC, then to New York. I got to meet them in New York, and they were doing a relay race. It was just a bunch of teenagers. And it grew to this huge movement that the whole world saw. So these kids are seeing that. We've seen that from Martin Luther King Jr., everything. It's always, when the youth gets involved, it makes a big difference because the parents are afraid to get arrested or, do all these, or have jobs and don't have the time or whatever. But then they see the kids out there and then it just moves. It just creates, you saw Bill O'Reilly just get kicked off. It's not just because of those women, because people were like, that's the wrong thing to do. Those women who had courage, they stepped up, they were brave enough to say something and keep pushing forward.
And the advertisers
people who
saw
believed
the heat.
them. No, but that's not that they saw the heat. Then you had Ultraviolet and Color of Change organizations that for over a year have been pushing for the advertisers to pull their ads. So this is a concerted effort, but it's all of people working together. It's the women who stood up bravely and said what their story was. It's the people who believed them and championed them. It's the journalists that printed it. It's the people who reposted it. It's the way that it just got to this point and amplified that this could actually end up happening. And when they see it hits their bottom line, they pull out. And that's no matter what, Seattle, all these divestments that are going on, regardless if they're pushing this pipeline, banks are paying attention. A lot of people, countries are paying attention. Like, we obviously can't keep going this way because we're going to lose money. And there's billions and trillions of dollars, obviously, in this oil, but there's billions and trillions in people's buying power and boycotting power.
Take us through what you were like the day after the election.
I mean, unfortunately, I was a Bernie Sanders surrogate. So, unfortunately, I was kind of mourning a Trump presidency during the primaries. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with everybody, but I just watched this man eviscerate over a dozen very high-profile Republican candidates, including a Bush. And I don't know why everybody's thinking like that's nothing and that he's just going to be dismissed and that it's a fluke, because I'm not seeing a fluke. I'm seeing a rise to power right now.
And you thought he would do the same with Hillary.
Absolutely. And because we're a trolling nation. Like, that's where we're at. We're no longer the place where, I grew up where it was like Jeopardy and really rewarding people for being the smartest person. Now it's about the weakest link. You put the guy who has no problem going, put her in jail. And people just love it. Doesn't, regardless if it was right, people just love that stuff. They're entertained. And the journalists, everyone's doing it because everyone made money off of that. They're all like, oh, don't talk about fake news. But every single one of those people just continued to every dumb thing that they said. They made it a highlight. They blew it up. He spent almost nothing on his campaign.
We talked about
they gave him so much free press.
How talking about Trump got ratings.
Yeah.
Well, we did it too.
Across the board. Everyone took advantage of it. Yeah. Newspapers were failing. A lot of the different cable shows weren't doing so good. Their numbers all of a sudden skyrocketed. He saved Twitter. It turned everything around. Everyone was like, we can make money off of this. Regardless of what that does to our soul and our country, we're making money. In the short term, it made sense for people. And now a lot of people are realizing, my God.
Did you support Hillary or no? Were you someone who checked out after Bernie was out?
I just continue to do what I always did. I've had a voting organization since 2004. I've always been nonpartisan. I joined the Bernie Sanders, just everything. I got in because this was a man that the people were paying for. He ran on his rhetoric. He ran on his messaging, and people said, "Here's $27. I will forego a haircut. I will forego a dessert." These are not across the nation. These are people who are hurting financially, and that's how he was growing. That's beautiful. We had an opportunity to have a grassroots president in the White House.
We really did.
And we went the exact opposite.
Well, that's exactly why. And from what we heard the other day.
I encourage people to vote. I encourage people to get out there, especially because we had other things that were up. It wasn't just for the president. There was other seats. There was other issues. Like in California, we were able to pass changed for that
recreational.
Recreational, but it was also but what that gave us with recreational marijuana was it also lowered from felony charges down so that people could get be in jail less time.
Right.
And also the people who were in jail for selling weed could now make money off of now the fact that now it's legal, which is another thing because so many Black and brown folks got arrested, their whole lives destroyed, communities destroyed, families, generations, and now it's legal and they're not able to participate. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, or they're still in jail. So it's like, there's other things that we have. There was also the death penalty. It was stopping that. There's so many different stuff that we could be voting on that we're not talking about because we're always just talking about, red, blue, and we're not talking about the issues.
And we talked to someone the other day who's a part of the DNC, and he made it pretty clear that Bernie is still who everyone's talking about, and the Democrats are still not interested. Like
totally,
they are
not even remotely.
They're gonna, and because Ebro and I, we said, and you know what, I voted for Bernie in the primaries, and then voted for Hillary, and got on board and said whatever we can do to not have Trump, I'm for. I'm not someone who believes they're all the same. Yeah, they're lesser versions, and I definitely wanted Hillary in there instead of Trump. But afterwards, Hillary has folded up, and she's gone away, and Bernie is still fighting every day, and yet we're gonna have the Democrats trying to search to find someone else because they refuse to accept Bernie. They refuse to say, oh, now he'll be too old. And now there'll be another reason why he's not the one. But that was the thing.
They kept calling him too old then. And he was on a campaign for 2 years, transitioned his campaign into her campaign after the primaries, and then went straight into just championing the people and being who he always was. Holding Trump accountable.
And by the way, presidents have always been
always done.
I don't understand. You know how many presidents have been Bernie's age and served in office? There was many.
Yeah, but it's not even a question of that ageism that they put on him. He's still out there kicking it. Like they were trying to throw us the Bernie Bros thing, just like the Obama Boys thing, was incredibly sexist and incredibly racist. And I really hope that people go back and realize, okay, when Ben Jealous, of the head of the NAACP, who was given so much flack for being a Bernie Sanders surrogate, was like, yeah, I'm in this, what you guys want to keep calling lily white state here in Oregon or whatever, and thousands of people are showing up for Bernie. But they're all raising their fists up in the air for marriage equality, for income equality, for Black Lives Matter. Right. Like, it's not, what's this black-white thing? Like, if it's about people, like these are people who are stepping up and they're on the right side of history, but you're just wanting to be like, oh, he's white, oh, it's this, and good luck with that. Like, you kind of dismiss an entire population of people because of the color of their skin. We don't like that for blacks, we don't like that for browns, but we can do that to white people as well. It's ridiculous.
And that's how
they
peel us back, though. That's how they pull everyone apart. Because you have the
divide and
old
conquer.
South kind of mentality. You have that South mentality. You have traditionalist New York mentality, which has its own level of racism. And then you have that kind of like hippie West Coast thing that everybody's like, oh, you guys are hippie tree huggers and you don't know what's going on in the world. Right.
I was very disappointed that Hollywood generally was so up in arms about Trump, tons of Trump jokes, everyone's anti-Trump, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time at the Oscars, they were still just as happy to accept Mel Gibson sitting there, and everyone's like,
there's so many inconsistencies.
Like, it's just been, but he's gotten a full pack. He's gotten a full, you welcome back.
Well, and Casey Affleck, too, the whole Casey Affleck thing with the rape and him being good to get his award.
Versus Nate Parker.
Right, Nate Parker.
And maybe you didn't like Nate Parker's film, but the way he got dismantled in the media.
Yeah. There's no consistency whatsoever, unfortunately. And
isn't that disappointing, though, in Hollywood, where you expect everyone to be liberal, and it's like, I thought, where's the liberal media at? I thought we do this. I always get consistently disappointed.
I don't expect people to be liberal, and I just think that I would appreciate more communication and more conversation around it. But it's really, I don't know, man. It's hard. Like I feel I don't want to like focus on the negative. I think that's just so easy. And what I'm just so amazed by is how many people who aren't taking it sitting down. Like when you have we have our issues around Nate Parker versus, Casey Affleck. But there's Brie Larson, who's an amazing advocate for women and sexual abuse. And she's standing there, she gives the award, she's being respectful, she's being professional, but she ain't smiling and she ain't clapping. And that said more to me than anything. So there are people who are making their points and making it get across. And I really appreciate that while still maintaining dignity. But not just like washing over like, okay, we're here, so I guess I just forget myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, well, I really appreciate that there's a real integrity there in a lot of folks, and that's a big deal.
Do you think we'll look back at these Trump years as helpful to people organizing and coming together? Because oftentimes we talk about the fact that what we are seeing today with people willing to put in work and people willing to stand up, people willing to get active and organized and speak out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been this way if Hillary was president. People would have been a little bit more
Kinda lulled to
apathetic
sleep.
and chill. And
Totally. And then there would have still been all the same marginalized people under Obama that would still have felt like they weren't being heard or seen. You know, like during Obama's years, you had immigrants who were going out calling him deporter in chief. You know, like what did we do to Yemen? Like he had, for 8 years, we were bombing. That's never happened in a presidency where we were at war the entire 2 terms. So like there's real issues there. And that's being carried over now in this next presidency, and people are pushing back against it. But people have been organizing for a long time. And now they're finally really getting support because now a lot of other people for the first time are feeling a little uncomfortable. And we just need that. So, and, you know, I think it's like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, they're all making jokes like Trump is actually going to not make America great again, because I don't know what again is, but he might very well make America great because people are standing up and going, absolutely not. And I hope it's not just resistance, but it's about creation. It's about education and information. It's about people like these kids today who are standing up by being silent and choosing to be silent, and the hundreds of thousands across the nation to stand up against LGBTQ, but then they're also bringing intersectionality and going, let's talk about the school to prison to pipeline. Let's talk about this other stuff. And that's what we need to be doing and fortifying and learning. People are reading the Constitution for the first time. Like, this is a big deal. So we're in an amazing moment. Every single day is another opportunity, another chance to figure it out. And if we pay attention, if we don't put it and suppress it and just put it in the closet, you know, and I think that's really important to just be in reality. Reality is crazy and hard sometimes, but it's a really good place to be if you want to be sane.
And go see Rosario's movie where she takes Katherine Heigl's man. And Katherine Heigl's a conservative, and it goes down, and they put paws on each other, and it's great.
No, but it does. But I do want to see
it. But it's about a woman who has gotten those tools, and she works on it, and that's what we need to do. The mental health and taking care of ourselves is really, really important. That's what we got to do: is look out for each other.
Good luck with the movie.
Hug it out.
And thank you for coming by. And you make us very happy that we have someone who's like so eloquent and can actually speak on these issues. So why are you winking, making a face?
Because they want to leave. PR people wrapping us up.
All right, we love you. Good luck in the movie.
Thank you.
Rosario
Dawson.
Hey, I want to hear that story though.
Which one?
The one where you were saying about how when you were 17, and I was like, you're one of your first interviews or something.
Oh, no.
That.
So basically the story was, I'll tell you, it was awkward. Here's what happened. So I bothered the PR people because like I was at University of Maryland. I had no business getting interviews with like big celebrities, but I chased them pretty well. And I eventually got a phoner with you. And I have the drop. It's probably on my computer right now. I have a drop from you from back then. I need a new one. It sounds like shit. But and I made some joke to you during the interview, like some sort of hitting on you joke, and it is the worst, most cringe-worthy. I'll find it. I have it on mini.
That's so funny. My boyfriend just asked me yesterday, like, what's the worst like pickup line? I can never remember. So maybe that'll be it.
Like,
I can send it to me so I can forward it to him.
And now I know you're like
was.
a 17-year-old virgin. You were like, what is he even talking about?